king, baby.
Well, it's that time. It's the end of the year, the end of 2024. I decided to make this top 5 best games of the year video for just the occasion. I've never done this before and I might never do it again, but let's do this anyway. Starting this baby off is number 5, and just to let you know, the order doesn't matter aside from the number 1 spot. My number 5 pick of the year is Bears in Space. Bears in Space is one of the best shooters of the year. It's a funny, kid-friendly romp through space where a retiring spacetronaut, Maxwell Adams, ends up infused with a she-bear named Bertana. You fight through hundreds upon hundreds of oil-filled robots and listen to Limp Bizkit-like rock and do bear karate. It's a good entry point for kids, but more than enjoyable for adults and those who love pop culture in the form of movies, television, and video games. Broadside Games, the developers of Bears in Space, are a trio of badass Australian fellas with a background in the industry bringing us the old school Insomniac level of charm. You even upgrade your weapons in a similar way to Ratchet and Clank. Weapons morph and evolve with kills or other criteria, and you solve puzzles here and there, but it's a super fun bullet hell FPS with that classic feel that's still insanely fresh and modern. Now for our first honorable mention. These mentions are not meant to be looked at as a contender that didn't quite cut it per se, but more like recommendations. Honorable mention number 1 goes to I Am Your Beast. I Am Your Beast is the most recent game from the creator of El Paso Elsewhere and El Paso Nightmare. It's fast. It's reminiscent of Angerfoot or Hotline Miami in a sense. It's basically an indie FPS where you try to finish levels quickly and efficiently. You're also playing a Rambo-adjacent character who has went rogue after being fed up with the government wanting him to do jobs when he said he was out. So now, he must kill them all. My number 4 pick is Nobody Wants to Die. I've already made an extensive video essay review for Nobody Wants to Die, but man is it a game that just sticks with you. I've seen this game get overlooked and completely forgotten about. It's such an impressive first title and really shows off the graphical potential of Unreal 5 and what it can offer even a smaller indie or AA game. It really shows that narrative adventure games are still a very fun and interesting genre. The choices, whether big or small, the characters and story without the hindrance of needing combat, it's a uniquely deep look into the human psyche and what it means to live forever. It has been a contender for me since the first hour of starting the game, and it will go down as a very special story with a world that is just as beautiful as it is horrifying. Honorable mention number 2 is my pal Storm's Game of the Year, Metaphor Refantasio. Let's hear what he has to say.
Hey, I'm Storm, and I want to thank Deadforge for inviting me on his best games of the year list for 2024. I mean, this year, it's just been an incredible year for gamers. I mean, I think I end up saying that every year. There are just so many games out there, and there's always that one game that connects with you on a special level. So, what's my favorite game this year? Metaphor Refantasio. The moment I played this game, I knew that it was going to be one of my favorite games this year. And the moment I beat it, I understood that this is one of the best games that I've ever played. Metaphor is one of the best RPGs out there, with a rich world to explore, a story that pulls you along for an unforgettable ride with incredible characters and top-tier writing, an engaging combat system that keeps turn-based combat fresh, a soundtrack that sounds like no other, and peak art design. Truly, the team at Atlas outdid themselves with the art in this game. You spend dozens of hours navigating the menus, but because they're all so immaculately designed, it doesn't feel like a chore because the menus work in tandem with the game rather than being separate. But what made Metaphor stick with me, and undoubtedly so many other players, were the themes from its narrative. A narrative that approaches fantasy not just as a story, but as a tool of reflection and inspiration to those playing. With its evocative writing surrounding tough themes of discrimination, struggles for power, identity, and more, Metaphor becomes a metaphor for our society, and that fantasy in and of itself is a source of hope. Just as the fantasy book in the game inspired its cast to rise up, so too does the fantasy of Metaphor in inspiring us, the players, and giving us strength. Fantasy lives on.
My number 3 pick is Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. Hellblade 2 is a magnificent, beautiful, and truly impressive feat of both game design and storytelling. Due to its more linear nature and being a more narrative-centric experience with light exploration and a shorter runtime, it was stripped of its Game of the Year potential by many. I made an entire video on why it's a masterpiece and why it's so unique. Senua's journey is personal and crafted in such a passionate way. They attempt to elevate the medium by melding it with the likes of film. The world, the score, the voice acting, and even the combat are so masterfully brought to fruition it blows my mind that it was so overlooked and barely even discussed. Everything has a purpose, and everything serves that purpose to a T. I suggest you give it a shot, and I was saddened to see it didn't end up a Game of the Year contender at the Game Awards. But I was so ecstatic when Melina Juergens won an award for her performance, and that was a very well-deserved award in my opinion. Honorable mention number 3, wait for it, is Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League. Unexpected, right? Trust me, I know. I never would have expected Suicide Squad to be among the most fun games I've played all year, yet here we are. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League has had its fair share of criticism, and for the most part that's pretty justified. And honestly, I felt like it should be illegal how much fun I was having because of how negative the discourse around the game is. Though much of the criticism towards the game is all taken out of context and not quite accurate. Batman gets his brains blown out, but is never told he has white privilege. He didn't fight back because he was on the verge of death and under the influence of a different mixture of fear toxin. Harley states he would have wanted it this way because we all know Bruce couldn't live with the atrocities he had committed under the influence of Brainiac. Sure, the Justice League could be clones or from another universe most likely, and yeah, there's some inconsistency with the Lantern's ring, etc., but I have a feeling it's not negligence on the part of the developers. Just pay attention and you'll see the signs and hints towards the truth. Flash almost got pissed on, but Harkness didn't quite succeed at that goal because he was stopped by the rest of the Suicide Squad and was told that he should be more respectful of the dead. I wish the game wasn't built as a live service, but it was. Ultimately, Suicide Squad is a fun, badass, and M-rated take on the Arkhamverse with a lot of continuity, and even the new Deadshot is explained well enough. Suicide Squad is not a Batman game, it's a Suicide Squad game. But it's a game from times past, a game much like Agents of Mayhem in style and sharing a similar fate from fans of the individual studios. The best way to explain this game is to think about Sunset Overdrive, Hulk Ultimate Destruction, or Prototype. And well, it's that kind of game. And for the $30 that I paid, it's well worth it. And for $3 on sale, it's the best game ever made in that way. But honestly, I think it ends just fine, and the credits are beautiful. And I'll show that later on. Rest in peace, Kevin Conroy. You are the Batman. And you are a voice among a Mount Rushmore of voices that helped make my childhood even better. My number 2 pick is Metro Awakening. Metro Awakening was my number 1 pick for the longest time, but I haven't fully finished the game. But I still believe it deserves so much more appreciation, and I was so happy to see it nominated alongside Arkham Shadow, and they both deserve all the praise they've received. Metro Awakening is a Metro story in VR. It's so visceral and among the few games to teeter on that Half-Life Alyx level of quality and polish. It's not perfect, but it is brutal, tense, and terrifying with a level of fear and survival only possible in VR. The character models are impressive, and the story is way better than I expected, focusing around a character we all know, except prior to the events of Metro 2033. Written by the man himself, Dmitry Glukhovsky. And man, is it a story worth experiencing. Trust me when I say, it's possibly the best VR game I've played thus far. Keep it on your radar, I promise this won't be the last time I speak on it. Honorable mention number 4 is my friend Midnight Medium's Game of the Year, Alone in the Dark. A game I myself really need to play just to appreciate that studio, the work that went into that game, and honestly, the first good Alone in the Dark game in a very long time. Take it away, man.
Hey, what's up, nerds? It's me, Midnight Medium, and this here is my favorite game of 2024, Alone in the Dark by Pieces Interactive. Now, this series has had a very rough history after Frederick Renault essentially invented 3D survival horror as we know it back in 1992, but with his blessing, writer and director Mackay Hedbay of Amnesia: The Dark Descent and Soma fame has somehow made what's old new again by playing up small bits of lore in the original games and ballooning them into front and center stage. The game's a little confusing, but it's oh so satisfying by the end, not to mention quite replayable as the two playable characters, Edward Carnby and Emily Hartwood, have their own special branches of personal story to explore. Now sure, the combat's never incredible, but it is serviceable and satisfying enough, and while the game could use a few more puzzles, Alone in the Dark has what most survival horror doesn't, and that is good pacing. It knows exactly when to leave the stage, and how much to make you work for your puzzle solutions and combat wins without dragging down the overall narrative. It's cinematic and intentional without being on rails, and somehow the voice and likenesses of David Harbour and Jodie Comer never overshadow the proceedings, putting in immersive, committed performances. The ending comes out of nowhere too in the best possible way, taking an old scene from the first game and reinventing it with a huge surprise in it. And speaking of surprises, I'm flabbergasted at this game's poor sales considering how much marketing I saw for it and the two lead star power. And now that Pieces Interactive has been shut down by Embracer Group, it's even more important that I champion this game. Don't you dare leave this one alone and keep yourself in the dark on this one, as this is one of the biggest surprises of 2024.
Finally, for my game of the year, a probably unexpected choice, but it's worthy of the title in my opinion. Gory, cuddly carnage is the game of the year, man. It's the most surprisingly heartfelt, stupid fun, and absolutely insane experience of the year. It's so gore-filled and vulgar as all hell, I love it. I think it really needs more of a spotlight, and I'd love an expansion or something else in this crazy world. If cuddly cute met demonic insanity is Gory's bread and butter. I made a review of the game and still need to get a physical copy on Switch. I'm so happy to spread the good word on this batshit roller coaster of kickflips and tail whips. A murder circus of murder kitty mayhem. Crack open a can of tuna and a Monster Energy drink and dive head first but somehow land on all fours. It's a miracle this game exists in 2024 and I'm so glad it does. Go play it if you love things like it. If you love Adult Swim or Devil May Cry, or hell, even if you like cats, and a loose but heartstring pulling reunion. Gory Cuddly Carnage is my game of the year. It deserves it, and then some. Go check it out. Doesn't cost a lot. It's not crazy long, but it's a lot of fun, and it will remind you of your childhood. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for checking in to the final video of the year and the first time doing a top 5 games of the year. Thank you Medium and thank you Storm for your contributions to the video, and thank you Medium and Osh for your contributions to the channel. And thank you all viewers and subscribers for your love and support during this time. I'll see you all in 2025.
Always prepared, he left a communication with the Daily Planet in the event of, well, it reads, "When I put on the cowl, it became a symbol. But I never stopped being Bruce Wayne, citizen of Gotham. Remember that we are all handed adversity in our lives. No one's journey is easy. It's how we handle that, how we help others, that makes us unique. That's what the Batman will always stand for. Metropolis, we'll get through this. And Batman, goodbye. You will be missed, but never forgotten."